and welcome to A Window to Bourne. Today joining me in the studio is Dick Menkello. Dick, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
And Dick, this is not the first time you've been in the Windows studio. I think we talked a couple of years ago.
Right.
You were one of my first interviews, and we learned a lot about you. We learned a lot about your involvement in Bourne.
Yes.
You do a wood carving class. You're the blacksmith over at the Briggs McDermott house.
Right.
I know we talked a little bit about your musical career as well, but I feel like when I was reflecting on that interview, I didn't get the man behind the music type thing. So I wanted to find out a little bit more about your background. So you moved to Bourne in the 90s, correct?
95, I retired in 95 and I moved down here. My parents' house. My mother had passed away 94 and I retired a year early.
Okay.
I worked for the phone company for 40 years. And I retired a year early and came down here, and fortunately my wife liked it. I was just worried if she would adapt, but she loved it down here.
Yeah.
So it worked out good.
Where was she from?
Dorchester.
Okay. And where did you grow up? Where were you born?
Always the North Shore, Medford, Meffa.
Yeah.
And Medford, Somerville. I graduated from Medford High in 1949.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And but between when we got married, I had an apartment in Cambridge for a while, but then I moved to I bought a two-family house in Somerville, and then we ended up in Arlington.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So from '68 on, I was in Arlington.
Okay.
That's where the kids grew up too.
Yep. Yep.
But I worked when I worked for the phone company. I worked in the Medford, Malden, Everett area.
Did you go right from high school to the phone company?
No, I worked for a while. I didn't, my father wanted me to go to college, but I didn't feel I was ready, and I said, I don't want to waste your money. So about 19, I think I was 19, I decided I'm going in the Army.
Okay. And this was 1950 or so?
51.
Okay, okay.
So I joined the Army, spent a year in Korea, and I spent another year in, Germany.
Yeah, and were you in Korea during the
During
Korean...
the war, conflict.
Yeah, the conflict,
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I was with a, and they had a point system. If you're online, it was 4 points, offline 2, and I forget what the quota was.
Okay.
At any rate, I was offline for a couple of months, but I was with a radio.
So offline, online, tell me what that means.
Well, on the, on the front.
Oh, okay, yep. So more
me.
points for being closer to the action, and that would be online. And
Yes.
then, okay, and the points basically give you credit.
Yeah, so many points per month, the 2 or 4.
Yeah.
And after you get a certain amount of points, they'd rotate you.
Okay.
I think they have a similar system in Afghanistan and over Mideast. But
so you might do 2 years offline, but if you're online,
yeah, you could
be
spend 2 years over there.
Yeah.
If you're behind non-combat area, essentially. And I was with the radio relay team, but we were like out in the boondocks all by ourselves.
Yeah.
We had to cook our own food.
Oh, wow.
We only had electronic equipment that we had to maintain. That was our job.
Did you have any experience with that before getting into the Army?
No, actually, when I went in the Army, they more or less tell you, this is what you're going to do.
Yeah, you don't get to pick your
no,
job.
they give you a test, and you get what they call an MOS,
Okay.
an occupational serial number.
Yeah.
So they determined that I was a field wireman.
Okay.
It's a telephone man.
Right, right.
And so it ended up that's what I did my whole career. I ended up being a radio man too. And it turned out that's when I got out of the service, I got a job at the phone company, so I went to school nights at MIT. Had a 2-year engineering program.
Mm-hmm.
They called it the Lowell Institute School.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was a donation by Ralph Lowell of the Lowells, the
Okay.
textile
The
manufacturer.
big, yeah.
And he had them set up an engineering program for working people.
So, okay.
Because I went 3 nights a week. I was working and going 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
So I ended up graduating from that program.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went in the phone company, I ended up being a teletype computer repairman.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
And I had that background, so it was okay.
But that was in the 50s and 60s before that was really even
Oh yeah. Well,
a job.
I worked on the internet.
Before it was the internet, or
Before
you
it was
worked
the
on the
internet.
internet. You
Before
helped.
it was the internet.
Yeah,
It was the
yeah.
ARPANET. They called
Right.
it the ARPANET.
Yeah.
Advanced Research Project, Army, I forget.
And it was just colleges and universities, or not colleges, but universities and research institutions.
They were connected with it.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at MIT for a couple of years.
Yep.
MIT was the major. They had, I think that was one of the first time-sharing computer operations they had.
Yeah.
And we connected with Caltech, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
and Harvard. And we had these installations. All I did was maintain we had data sets. We had high-speed transmission.
Okay.
So that's all I did. At the time, I didn't touch computers.
Yeah. You were worried about the wire.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And so they were well connected, sharing. They had what they called a big, I think it was an IBM at that time, the Project Mac.
Okay.
And that was at MIT. That was theirs. And then Harvard had a different. And what had happened, they had, at that time, they all had different computers. So I think MIT had an IBM.
Yep.
Harvard, I think, might have had a Honeywell.
Mm-hmm.
So these computers couldn't talk to each other.
Right. Right.
And there was an outfit named BB&N, Bolt, Berenick, and Newman.
And they're still in Cambridge,
They're
right?
still in
Yeah.
Cambridge.
Yeah.
But they were a sound engineering firm.
Mm-hmm.
They used to design opera houses and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they got the job to make this little machine so that these different computers could interface.
Okay.
And they called it the IMP,
Okay.
Inter-Message Processor.
Yep.
So they designed this little box, and they had all of these computers connected so they could talk to one another.
Oh, interesting.
And the Project Mac, and oh geez, they had, a lot of they were so busy that some of the people that were on it, instructors and et cetera, they used to work from their homes,
Mm-hmm.
2 o'clock in the morning. They'd go home and get into the computer because during the day it was just
It was being
total,
used. Yeah. Yeah.
total grid jam.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
gridlock. So they worked they worked at home.
Okay. Yeah.
So at that time we were repairing they call them data sets,
Okay.
but these were connectors to the computer and their home computer. So we used to repair them. So
Yeah.
you'd
yeah.
go to professor's house in the middle of the night to repair
Right.
his data set.
And would everybody have one of those IMP boxes, or was it just sort of one
No,
that
that
everybody
was just
plugged
where
into?
the computer was, the
Okay.
mainframe
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah.
That was just for mainframe computers,
Yeah.
I think.
Wow. So
And,
and at the time, did you have any idea that that was sort of the beginning of, everybody's going to walk around with the internet in their pocket, or?
Well, no, but it was it was really mushroomed at that time.
Yeah.
Because I remember we had a seminar. They had facsimile. They used to send faxes.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it took a long time. And I think we had a seminar guy had come out with a new, I think it was a new data set. He could send the copy of the New York Times in 40 seconds or something.
Yeah, yeah.
That was just starting to come up. Well, that's when the high-speed data, because we had special lines that were conditioned.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it, a lot of engineering to make transmission lines adaptable for higher speeds. And some of the speeds there are a lot faster today, but they've come up with other ways to code their data too. So
Yeah, yeah.
great advances.
Yeah.
You know, it's unbelievable.
Speeds
now.
are faster, but we're sending a lot more too. I
Yeah.
mean, the messages were much more simple. You know,
Yeah.
the graph, you know, not graphically intense, and yeah, yeah.
So
have
now
you, have you kept up with it? Have you kept your hand in the computer game at all?
No, not that much. My last 15 years, I worked for the computer repair,
Yeah.
and actually worked on computers. The phone company bought they bought digital, they bought a couple of different computers. But the phone company used it for a special purpose. And they had them all over the place. They had, you know, they may have used one day they wanted to track pay station calls. So that would be a special system. And they'd track these just to find out what was happening.
Yeah.
So they had different applications strictly for the phone company.
Okay, like just on that computer.
Just
that's all it
yeah,
would do.
so they'd
Yeah.
have a computer that just did that particular application that they were looking for.
Yep. Yep.
So it,
Now, I have to think, you know, just the fact that you were starting some of this work when you were as young as 19 in the Army, I mean, you must have had some sort of proclivity for it, that, you know, you started off with the ability to tinker and to problem solve. Where do you think that came from?
I was just always mechanically, I think I was mechanically inclined and always looking for something. But probably like my father was kind of a tinkerer. So I got a lot of it from him, but when I was a kid, I always remember during the war.
This would be World War II.
World War II.
Yep.
I used to make model airplanes.
Okay, yep.
The balsa wood models, not the plastic ones.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there was a lot more work to them. So at the time, you could buy them for a dime, and it took 2 days to put it together. And then I'd go on the back porch, light it on fire, and shot them down. You know.
Yeah.
You know, you'd get a German plane, and okay, bang, or Japanese Zero, and
Yep, yep.
okay, he's gone.
Yep.
So in 2 days and then 2 minutes, it's
gone.
ashes.
Right, right.
So and today, at that time, it was a small model, about a 12-inch wingspan. And I think I bought one a couple of years ago. They're hard to come by.
Yeah, yeah.
Most of the stores, they sell the plastic models.
Right.
You have to go to a real hobby store to get a balsa wood, a flying model. And God, I think that little box for 10 cents, I think it's probably over $10.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I always putted around with different things. And then, well, in the Army, I had, in Korea, we were out in the boondocks by ourselves, so naturally we had to stay online for 24 hours.
And what was your role? Were you relaying messages, listening to messages?
Yeah, well, it was VHF. We had aerials, antennas, and it was line of sight. So we were in a valley, and another station was on the mountain, top of the mountain, and then there'd be another station, another mountain, a valley, right across the whole.
So you literally had to be able to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the way we transmitted. It was funny because some guys would drive into our location there and says, "Geez, you guys got TVs?" I said, "No, we don't have TVs."
Right, right.
They saw the TV antenna.
Right, right, yeah.
But I used to mainly maintain the power. We had portable power plants, little power generators, and we'd have about 5 of them. And we had to maintain those. It was always repairing those, rebuilding them. And they had to be running for 24 hours. So it was more, my guard duty used to be start power plant 1 up, and it ran maybe 3 hours on the tank of gas. So we had to make sure we started number 2
Before.
so we could swap them over, so we wouldn't lose air time.
Yep.
But when I went in the rifle company, I was a wireman radio man. So
What does that mean?
The wireman, I'd run. We were in an outpost. We were in the 38th parallel. We were actually in front of it. We had what they called outposts, and they were in front of the main line. So we're like the first guard, and we used to have to run wire telephones between the outposts.
Yeah.
We had like a Colombian outfit next to us as one.
One of the allies.
Yeah, they used to mix the allies up. They'd intersperse them, so there was never 2 or 3 company divisions on the same companies on the same country.
Yeah.
So they alternated them. The Turks, it could be anybody.
Were you close enough to socialize, to be friendly?
No. Well,
Okay.
the funny part about it, I had to run a wire one day, and so I had a friend of mine. It was a Mexican kid, but he was from California. So he says, "Well, you got to run this. We're not in touch with these guys because we had an incursion one night," and said we couldn't contact them. They didn't know what was happening over there, and says we got to run that telephone there. Okay. So he says you got to run a phone there. So okay. So he says, "Why don't take Cervantes with you?
Okay. Yeah.
He'll, won't be a language problem."
Right.
Well, we got there, and Cervantes they were jabbering, and he says, "You know what he said?" "No," he says, "I didn't understand."
Oh wow.
And, we had to make about 3 trips back and forth because there's a million wires hanging down, and you put a buzzer on them to locate them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as soon as we'd leave, we'd call, "Everything okay?" "Yeah, okay, we're coming back." And then we'd get back, and then the captain would say, "Oh, see if you can contact them." No answer.
No answer.
No answer.
Uh-huh.
I thought you connected it. I did connect it.
Right. Right.
Now him and I got to walk back there.
Right.
From one mountain to the other. Finally get back there. You guys, the wires all look the same. It was a rat's nest from a million wires that they had run. So finally we got that squared away. But
So was it the phone's ringing, nobody's answering, or they had unplugged a wire?
they didn't particularly care.
Yeah,
They didn't want
yeah.
to talk to anybody
Right,
anyway.
right.
That's what I used to do during the day, and at night I used to run. I'd go out on patrols. We'd run patrols between the Chinese outpost and our outpost.
Wow.
And kind of no man's land. We used to run them in between there.
Yeah, yeah.
And only at night. And it worked out okay, because I used to use the radio. I was a radio man at night. During the day I ran wire, and at night during patrols I used to just I was the radio man for that group.
Yeah, yeah.
So it worked out okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was interesting time.
We're doing at the Historical Society, we're doing this year will be a military exhibit. And so I've really had my head into a lot of this information about the military and the lifestyle. And it feels like the World War I is the war that we're focusing on now for this exhibit this year. The Korean conflict feels, a little forgotten when we think about our involvement in the war. And, I know Korea from the show MASH. But I mean, does that ring true to you at all? How accurate did that feel?
Parts of it, but that was a little tongue in cheek, I think.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't quite like that.
Wasn't quite like that.
No.
Yeah.
Part of it was probably correct, but They had, at that time, the helicopter was only used for moving wounded.
Okay, yeah.
You know,
Well, so since that was about a hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a MASH,
Yeah.
a field hospital. And so they'd move the heavily wounded. And I remember when I first went to Korea, I landed in Busan, which is the bottom tip of Korea. And now we had to go about 350 miles up to, we call them a repo depot.
Okay.
Replacement depot.
Okay.
That's where everybody goes.
Yeah.
In and out, when you're coming in and out.
Because you're replacing somebody who's already on the line.
Yeah, who's already there.
Okay.
And he's coming home. And so we had it was like a Tunaville trolley. And that's just what it was. It took us 4 days, I think, to go 350 miles.
Oh, wow.
It was only one track.
Yep.
And then they had sidings. And what had happened, they had the guys that were wounded badly, they didn't fool around with them. They helicoptered them, either to a ship or to a MASH. But what we'd call the walking wounded,
Yeah.
guy, minor injury, and it wasn't life-threatening, so they'd move him by the train.
Okay.
So they'd have a train full of these guys and walking wounded, and we'd be, the sidings might be 25 miles apart, and we just already went 20 miles, and they're coming down, and they got preference, so we now back up the train 20 miles,
Oh, wow.
wait for them to go by, and then we're
Yep.
on.
Yep.
But that's why it took 4 days.
Right. Right. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Yeah.
And we'd have guns. That's how they used to bring guns over, new rifles.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any bullets.
Oh. So the ammunition would be
Just
there.
the-
Okay.
Just the gun. We
Yeah.
had the gun. We're bringing the new gun to you guys.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any bullets.
Okay.
so it was kind of funny.
Yeah. Why didn't you have bullets? Just they.
I guess they didn't want us to shoot each other.
They'll wait till the time is right to join the bullets with the gun. That's probably smart. Yep. So when you came home, you did a year at the 38th parallel. So you were on the front lines there. And then where did you go? Were you done with the Army after that?
Oh no, because I joined for 3 years.
Okay.
And when I come home, I only had about a year in. And now they were shipping me different locations. My final resting spot would have been Camp Polk, Louisiana.
Okay. Yep.
So I got in there and I said, well, I might as well be overseas and be down here.
What was it like?
It's out in the boondocks.
In the boondocks. What is it? Camp Polk?
Camp Polk.
Okay.
P-O-L-K.
Okay.
Camp Polk, Louisiana.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got there, I said, geez, how do I get out of here?
Yeah.
I might as well be overseas and be down here. So at any rate, at 7 days I was processed. I had been in FECOM, Far East Command.
Okay.
And they had openings for EUCOM, EU.
Oh,
Com,
European
Command.
Yeah.
So, and we had preference. So he said, okay. So I processed, got all my shots and everything, and I ended up stationed in Germany.
Okay. And how did you convince them to send you there?
Stuttgart. Oh no, I didn't convince them.
Okay.
Anyway,
there was no.
I
You put
could
in
have
the
gone
request
somewhere else.
and
but
you hope, yeah.
Oh no,
yeah.
they just they tell you where to go anyway.
Yeah.
So I ended up in Stuttgart or Ludwigsburg. It was a little suburb of Stuttgart.
Yeah.
And I would remain there the rest of my hitch. I came home in April 54. I got discharged.
Yeah. And were you still doing the electrical engineering type stuff when you were in Germany?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was a radio man there.
Okay.
And
So now, so you were coming home in '54, and you're coming home to sort of America in the '50s, and everybody kind of looks back at that time like, oh, that was a golden era.
Yeah.
What did it, what was society like for you then?
Well, what had happened is before my father and mother worked for the MTA.
Okay, yeah.
So
For the trolley system in Boston?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Now the MBTA.
Yeah.
But he worked for the MTA, so he said before I joined, he said, listen, why don't you get a job in the MTA, then go in the Army. Now when you come out, you have a job.
Yep.
I says, okay.
Yep.
So I ended up as a messenger for about 6 months, and then I went in the service, and then when I come out, I had that job.
Yep.
So I come back a messenger, but I wasn't happy there. I ended up quitting, and I went to school, electronic school.
That's the MIT
No,
experience.
that
oh,
was
okay.
just a electronic school,
Okay.
just a regular repair school.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was in there about 2 months, and then I had put a letter in for the phone company. And I got accepted, so I canceled the school because I couldn't go days and work.
Yeah.
And then I took night courses. I still take them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know. And you take them and you teach them. I
Yeah.
mean, and one thing that I touched upon at the beginning, and we got into some more depth last time we spoke, was your wood carving class, or the wood carving workshop that you do, and
Yeah.
you're still actively, teaching and getting people involved
Yeah.
with that, and because of the community center, they had a flood, so you're in a new location now,
We're
right?
at the library.
Yeah, yeah.
10:30 to 12 on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at the library,
Yeah.
the Bourne Library.
Well, and I couldn't resist, we did ask somebody to bring in an example of your work, because last time we spoke I didn't have anything handy. This right here is a beautiful example. Now, is this, what type of wood carving is this? Is this a relief?
That's what they call relief.
Okay.
There's probably three branches of wood carving. Relief, where you get to the surface of the wood, and sculpture.
Okay.
Like bird carving is just part of, it's a sculpture.
Yes, yes.
So, but those are the two main branches, if you could call them branches. And then there are some decorative. The decorative part, they have what they call chip carving is one of them. There's architectural carving. That's part of it too.
Well, Dick, last time you were here, I was determined that I was going to get to your wood carving group, and I'm going to do it now because Wednesdays are a little bit better for me. But it's every Wednesday at 10:30.
Every Wednesday at 10:30.
Yep. And now you're meeting in the library temporarily.
Yes.
Until you'll be back at the senior center, and if I recall correctly, there's no charge and everybody is welcome. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
And we usually provide, if excuse me, if a newcomer comes in, I try to come up with a couple of pieces that'll get them off the ground.
Yeah. Well, I'm determined to carve a whale. That's my goal.
That's good.
All
That's
right.
one of the first. I have a bird and a whale,
Yeah.
but it just gives you the whole principle of carving, using the knife, and figuring out wood.
Yep. Yep.
And
Well, good. Well, you'll see me there, and thank you so much for joining me in the studio. I really enjoy talking to you, and
My pleasure.
And maybe we'll get a chance to sit down again in the future.
we'll get
thanks
a
for-
little whale for you.
Oh, good, perfect. Next time I'll have my whale to show everybody. And if you're looking for Dick Menkello, you can find him 10:30 at the library every Wednesday in the morning, and then after that he'll be at the senior center. And also go see him as a blacksmith at the Briggs McDermott House in the summertime. And thank you for joining me today on A Window to Bourne. I'll see you next time.